They're getting pretty close, right?
Yeah.
Okay, the monthly meeting of the Port of Siuslaw Commission for Wednesday, 20 March 2013 is called to order at 7 o'clock. The first item on the agenda this evening is the approval of the minutes from the February 20th meeting and the special meeting on the 12th of March.
I move approval of the 2 minutes in block.
In block, I'll second it.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you, gentlemen. We got past the...
I'd like to again thank Dina for an excellent job. You've done really well.
I think I will remove agenda off of the top. I use the agenda to type the minutes up, and I see the agenda is still left on there, so I'll take that off.
A minor little issue.
But thank you for your compliment.
Okay. Do we have a presentation?
Yes,
Eldon?
we have Shane Burnham.
This is from
and Jay
Eldon?
Dempsey, so
No,
Shane,
I
come up.
wasn't able to coordinate the thing with
Okay.
Alden.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Will he be rescheduled?
Yeah, we'll make sure he gets on there.
Okay.
Next item, remarks from citizens group.
Come on, Shane.
Sorry, a little nervous. I'd like to say thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for allowing me to speak. The privilege to speak my mind.
Would you introduce yourself?
My name is Shane Burnham, and I'd like to start by saying thank you to Bob for all the work you're doing. I feel like you're doing a great job saving us money. Citizens of the port, stakeholders all around the area and community are appreciative of that, and they're noticing it. And I think it's really important to say thanks for it. And thank you to the board for enabling him to do that. I think it's important. I know as a citizen of the area and kind of keeping track with what's going on with the port, I know there's a lot of issues. Some of them can be not the port's issues, but we're concerned. Citizen stakeholders are concerned that the port's not doing all that it can do. And to create family wage jobs, to stabilize our economy, our local economy in the port's jurisdiction. I feel that's important. And I just want to encourage you guys to keep on the same track that you're on, improving, looking to the future, and that's it.
Sure, we appreciate that. At any time you have suggestions, let's...
Shane is running for position 1, and he came in and met with me, and short of being from Wasilla, Alaska, he could see Russia from his front door.
You can walk there in the wintertime.
Probably so, yeah.
But Shane, thank you, and I really appreciated your meeting we had.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Great. Anyone else? Okay. onward
Oh,
to-
yes.
You did.
Oh,
excuse me.
excuse me, I'm
Jay?
sorry, I didn't see you.
Yes,
Oh,
how are you?
Would you like to have chairs? We
Yeah,
have
we-
chairs.
no,
No,
grab
I'd
one, Jay, if
be
you
happy
want.
to stand. That's no problem. My name is Jay Nefsey, and I'm a citizen of the city of Florence. And I also want to thank Bob Forsyth for his work trying to save us money in Washington with the Wharf Improvement Project. I think it's very strong a statement you made by able to get to Washington and to help our situation. Thank you. I agree with Shane Burnham. I believe that the Port of Siuslaw's business should be to look to the future. We should not repeat the sins of the past. We should not flip real estate, buying land we don't have a use for. And if we do have a plan, we should follow up on it.
You want to expand on that just a little bit, Flippin? I'm not familiar with what we've...
We're buying and selling land, sir.
What, give us an example, would you?
Well, we have 40 acres of land that was supposed to be used for a business park that I don't think has been followed up on.
Well, kind of hit a wall there on that thing. So you know the history. We were supposed to get that no cost to the port. You know that? And at the 11th and a half hour, the county changed their mind and wanted $250,000 for 40 acres. So we were faced with a pretty tough decision at that point in time, whether to buy the land from the county or to let it go, and we felt it was a better value for 40 acres of industrial land to buy it, even though we had to go in debt to do it, because we I think we can sell it here directly, but go ahead, I just
Well, no,
wanted to clarify. I mean,
and have
this
we-
isn't a routine thing that we
And
do.
have we done that? Have we sold it? Have we
No, we haven't yet.
We have market.
have we developed it?
Yeah, it's developed as much as
It's
we're going
shovel-ready.
to. Because if somebody wants a whole 40 acres, it doesn't make much sense for us to subdivide it, plat it, subdivide it, and put in utilities.
At the last meeting, I heard of many other properties that we own as the Port of Siuslaw that we didn't even know we owned.
Well,
You're right about that.
you're right.
And you passed a resolution
These
saying
are little-
saying that it was available.
Right.
So, let's have a plan.
Yeah, you probably, you want to meet with Bob a little bit and talk about some of these things.
Let's
because-
have a plan.
Yeah, let's do
And
that.
now, and I've been examining the other Oregon small ports that are. Then we've got their business plans around. There is the Oregon Business Development Department has made many plans that we can use. I would suggest that we follow through with them and use them.
We're
Not-
pretty familiar with most of the assets that are available to us,
And have they been utilized?
to the extent that we have needed to utilize them, yeah.
And have we used all of the authorities given to us by the Oregon Department Authority ORS 770?
Well, we could run the airport, we could run the water utilities, we could run the electrical utilities. I guess if we see a need to do that in our community, we certainly would.
And that's the point, is
Yeah.
that the economic development hasn't been approached the way it could be for the coming times that we have.
Okay.
And that's my statement. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Jeff.
Anyone else? Okay, let's move on to financials then.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Fleener.
Yes, I'd like to go ahead and move the financials, ratify the bills, $372,776.04, and comment after a second.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay. Thank you, Deanna, for doing the, what do you call it?
The check detail report.
The check detail report in descending order. That's what I'm looking for. Really
Welcome.
very appreciative of
You
that.
didn't like to see the $1.50 first?
I'd like to see the big numbers first, and then I kind of peter out at the $1.50, but this is much better for me, and I do appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Hopefully you didn't have to go out of your way.
It was very easy.
So I do appreciate that, and everything else looks great. It's coming together.
Yeah, the only question, I had a question on the office equipment for $7,700. I just didn't remember.
That was part of the computer networking.
Okay. That's the only question I had.
So that we can now work from home and work from Washington DC or wherever we happen to want to be and still work on our work here at the port.
Are we able to utilize
We have-
Stream for
yeah.
Skyping and Uvu?
Yep.
Excellent.
Yeah, we've not hooked, Shannon is yet to come in and do our training on it.
Who's Shannon?
Shannon works for,
Oregon Coast Technology.
thank you. And,
Fine outfit.
yeah, yeah, that's right. And they're coming in to help us with some of our other off-site type of processes for sit down with a class for Outlook so that we know how to schedule when we're away from the office, that sort of thing. Hook up for Skype and so that we can utilize everything we can. So they've been a very good asset to us, and the training is ongoing for that. So
Could you elaborate a little bit? First of all, for edification, I started the company and I sold the stock, so I'm no longer involved financially. But the concept of a managed service provider, how do you
Right.
feel about that?
oh, it's excellent. I mean, they do our offline, our backup systems so that we don't have to worry about having backup data information here in-house. It's done by them off-site, so it's automatic. It's we don't have to think about it. A lot of the troubleshooting, when and if, when we haven't had that much, is really done off-site again. So you really protect yourself when you're having data that we don't have to worry about being in-house. This place could burn down tomorrow. And
Oh, well, let's not. There could be another
because the
term you could
fire chief couldn't get here
use.
in
You
time.
could use another term.
He's on the
Flood or tsunami
A
or
tsunami, that's
There we
right.
go. Okay, and we would have our latest backup information out there and available to us to recoup in a matter of hours. So it really has been very extremely helpful too. And now we're networked in our calendaring and our emails. If I'm gone, everybody gets to see what's going on, and it's just been, and we haven't even tapped all the resource yet.
So you think this has improved the
Oh,
productivity and efficiency?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
That's what I was hoping for.
Yeah, it's worked out very well.
Excellent.
Any other questions? We have a motion and a second to ratify the bills in the amount of $372,776.04. All those in favor?
All right.
Aye. Okay.
Now, of course, some of that is capital expenditure on the work
Oh,
improvement
a lot of
project.
it
A lot of
Yeah.
it is.
Yes.
A lot of it.
Yes.
Make it clear.
That's a big.
Big dollar amount.
And those expenditures will be capitalized and depreciated
Oh,
on our
absolutely.
balance sheet.
Yes.
Bob, you want to go over the wharf improvement financials?
Not if I could help it.
I know.
I'll just give, they're there in front of you. We're getting close to it. We're probably I talked to ODOT today just to make sure, because we're going to run first week of April, second week of April before all this is tied together. We're supposed to be done by the 31st. Some of the changes that are taking place are fiddly stuff that's going to take a while, moving some electrical, moving some plumbing, that type of thing. But all of the in-water work is done except for one extension that we will be talking to Corps and Fisheries tomorrow on, and that's the one where the piling came up next to the barge that nobody was touching or doing. It just popped up. And,
Oh, really?
yeah, and it happened right the day before our in-water work permit ended on the 15th. So it was like, you really couldn't do anything at that point in time. So we cut off the top to make it look decent, put the cap back on, and went, all right, we'll work on that. And so when the folks met with us Friday last from the Corps and from NIMS, they agreed to let's get a letter in. We got the letter in for an extension so we could fix that one pile. We'll be talking to them tomorrow about what that really means so that they can get the letter off to us and we can fix that one piling. The rest of it is going to be simply under the wharf. I think we have one or two beams left to put in. After that, it's a matter of bolting down, jacking up, leveling out, finding out where that fits, putting in some, if they need to shim and weld. That's why it's going to take all the
Do we
next few
level
weeks.
those?
Not yet. We're on the process. We're supposed to start to be leveling mows this week. So we'll see how that goes. However, what they were talking about in that instance with mows is that they only level to a certain point because of the new wood that goes on, the new wood structures that go on top of the beam structures have to have a time to settle and things. So they're not really certain that we're going to have many problems inside of the restaurant or with the windows and doors and things. They said it typically settles in and we shouldn't see much of it. Ken, however, has several of our vendors in-house ready for that. Should that happen, we're ready to jump on it right away for any kind of windows or door jams and things like that. But according to Legacy, they don't really think that's going to happen. So should be interesting to, and these people have been doing it for years, so it'll be interesting to see how well they come about. So we're not expecting, we've somewhat twisted their arm, browbeat both the engineer and the contractor to make sure they understand there's no more money and they're not going to get any more money. And so you're sitting there with about $40,000 play, so be very frugal with anything that you think you're going to get, from now on. And they've been pretty good. So we're very, very close. We should be seeing the end of. They had a few engineering hiccups that they have to work around because we wouldn't let them shut mows down, which they had counted on for a 10-day period, and we wouldn't let them do that. There was some bracing that they had to do that because of the plumbing that they thought that they were going to be able to remove for 10 days with mow shut down, that they had to redo a couple of the headers and things. So those are on order. They'll be here. So it's really, when I say fiddly stuff, I mean it's a major project, but at the same time, it's all the cranes will be gone, all the big working equipment will be gone, and they'll be on small rafts and boats underneath doing the work. We should release the bulk of Moe's parking lot to them Friday. At the latest, the cranes will be out of there, and because the heavy equipment work will be done. So again, it'll just be all of the crews will still be here, but you know, it won't be quite as noticeable that it has been over this time. So we're optimistic that most of this will move forward. They've worked with us very well. I think we've managed it reasonably well, considering what we had to work with, and we'll see. I mean, we've still got 3-4 weeks left, but considering what they're doing, nothing. They damaged a portion of a gutter and possible part of a roof when the wind blew when they were setting a pile, and the other pile that popped up. Considering a 22,500 square foot project and the amount of steel that they're moving, couldn't be happier with what they've come up with so far. So knock on wood that we keep that process up.
Especially when you compare it with the added expenditures we had for compliance.
$175,000 to $200,000 extra we were going to have to put
we
in
didn't
there
have budgeted.
that we didn't have budgeted, and
That was for
now
pulling,
gone away.
piling, and removing debris at the behest of National Marine Fisheries,
Yeah.
which was a kind of a rude awakening.
Yeah.
I notice a boneyard back there.
Yes.
We are very frugal. We are saving all of the cut-off metal pilings for future use. I thought that was really wonderful.
Actually, we found out today that that's theirs by contract. And what they do, by the way, but the wood that we've been using, like with the hiker and biking campsite and stuff, all came out of the reused wood from the wharf and all the piling. Now the metal, what they do is, because we questioned that just the other day, it was, wait a minute, we're going to scrap it, no, that's ours type of thing. And we've cleared that up today. What they do is, the reason, remember when we sat around and said the bid was pretty low for the construction group? What they're allowed to do is they bid that project knowing that they had X amount of steel that they were going to use from previous projects. And so they count on and they try to calculate the amount of steel that they'll have left over on ours so that they can bid the next project fairly low. And so I looked it up, and on page 5 they do have that paragraph in there. So, and it also keeps us from having to scrap it, going through the process. But all the wood out there, we're going to do we have some community things that we would like to do with that wood, especially the 100-year-old wood. What kind of wood, John? Cedar. Yeah. That's out there that we're going to do some benches with and some piling and things like that. So you'll still see some of those cropping up in our neighborhood with some of the things that we'd like to do with that wood.
Yeah, that's real expensive cedar.
Is that what
that is? $86,000 to pull those out from under the wharf.
Yeah, really expensive cedar.
Because the birds would sit on them.
Yeah, but that was a really good meeting, and we got out from under any further expenditures. So.
I'd like to compliment you. I drove around the campground tonight, and it just looks so nice and tidy and clean. Thank you very much, staff, for a wonderful job. It's looking really professional.
Thank you.
Second, we had a discussion regarding the catwalk that's welded between the two piers in front of the crane.
Oh, yes.
Have you looked into that?
I've made some calls. I haven't got calls back yet to find out what that was about.
Yeah. I'm just thinking that during high tide and some other...
Might be an issue in there, yeah.
It reduces the flexibility of the piers. So you might want to take a look at that.
Anything else?
No, not unless you have further questions or more specific.
Uh,
And I'd just give them to Dina anyway.
So what is this about? A $1.8 million project that is coming to a conclusion that seems to be satisfactorily managed. And I'd say above satisfaction. I think this is an example of exemplary management
it's been
on your part. I really appreciate that.
But that's staff. All I do is manage staff. They do the work.
You get the credit. No.
That's right, and they get the blame if it's wrong. So Dean has done a marvelous job, and Ken has kept everybody, for all the things that I don't know about boats and wharfs and stuff, Ken has been there to make sure that I'm educated in that. And the two of them have really pulled this off. Susie, in her regulatory knowledge, has been priceless. So we've got three people that really have done a marvelous job of keeping this, and I just simply manage the situation. They take care of the detail.
In the final analysis, what did we get? 20-year life expectancy?
30.
30-year life expectancy? That's excellent. That's good use of the public money.
I think so. This is so far so good, and absent something really bizarre happening, which I can't foresee. Yeah, I think it's for the scope of this. I think it went fairly well.
Well, for the citizens who haven't been down here, they should take a walk and look at some of the engineering that went into this. It is just phenomenal.
You get up under that dock and look at it. It's amazing.
How
isn't
they
it?
did that was
Yeah.
just incredible. How they moved that large of beams underneath that dock.
Yeah, it's amazing. I
You
was.
see the biceps on some of those guys. I think that one thing we need to remember, though, and this is fairly typical of our capital projects and our infrastructure maintenance, that we end up with a tab of about $400,000
Yeah.
on this, even though it's a grant.
Mhm.
By the time we pay the unanticipated permitting costs
Mm-hmm.
and the copay, if you will,
Mhm.
it's still $400,000, and we don't gain any revenue off of that other
Correct.
than maintenance of what we already have.
Mhm.
So that's one of the challenges that we're faced, since we only get about 20% of our operating revenue from property taxes. We have to make up the rest through revenues and profits.
Yeah, and I think that's missed a lot when people, citizens, look at municipalities and things like that, and they, sometimes
That's-
miss that. Yeah, we still have a
Brought
$400,000
up
bill.
today,
that-
that's under 777, we're
Yeah.
a special district, and we don't get the tax support that most of the other special districts do.
Mhm.
And we can run electrical utilities, but Central Lincoln might have a little bit to say about that. or-
Yeah, probably not a good idea.
Anyway, upward and onward. Any items under old business? Okay. New business, and the first item is to approve our camp host retirement agreement. Bob, once again, you want to go through this?
Sure, this is working with John Wolf, our legal counsel. What we did is Demi has been with the flip back into my old job, has been with the port for over 18 years. And when she came here to be camp host, she moved here with her husband, who has since passed away. She's been here a very long time. When Demi got to a point where she was uncomfortable performing the duties of the camp host, especially at night and that sort of thing, and different people coming to her place, we needed to make some sort of a change. Well, this is her home. I mean, this is where she lives. I mean, she doesn't have a house to go to. She doesn't have kids to move in with and that sort of thing. And she's, quite honestly, very independent. So we searched around to figure out something that we could do that suited the purpose. And so John Wolf and I sat and talked on several occasions and came up with, how about a retirement agreement that allows her to stay in her own unit that she is paid for, that she insures, and that we simply provide her with the space and utilities for that unit to a point in which when she can no longer use that space, either voluntarily or medically or what have you. And she's tickled to death with it. I mean, she understands that's way beyond what we needed to do, but I think it's the right thing to do. It keeps her here, keeps her in the community, and keeps knowledge there. Should something come up, we can talk to somebody that's actually been here 18 years. So I think it just works out real well. Making it a retirement issue keeps it out of some other taxation problems that we might have, or somebody coming up and saying, well, we want to live here too, and the way we legally did it was that it's a retirement agreement.
I like that. I think that was a very upfront, humanistic effort
Yeah.
on behalf
Good.
of you, Bob, and John Wolf, our attorney.
Would you like to make a motion?
I'll move that we accept the retirement agreement between the port and Damien.
Second. Comment?
Mr. Fleener?
I don't see anywhere about utilities in here.
Simply because the space that we have doesn't delineate utilities, they all
It's not
come with
metered.
it.
Okay,
So it's freebie.
okay, just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, John brought that up too, and I went, well, that would be,
Cost to put a meter in there.
that would be a
Right.
departure from,
I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure that we stated that we were gonna
Yeah.
provide that to her.
Yeah,
And apparently
absolutely.
that's included in
In
the
the-
space or
Exactly.
campsite, so that's
That's it.
okay, fine.
good catch.
Yeah, good, thank you.
We have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, another item is regarding the floating restroom that the Oregon State Marine Board is considering placing in the river outboard from our marina. And it will be basically a no-cost grant to us. So this will be very similar to the one that's on Silcoos Lake. And I think probably during the salmon season it would be, it's a floating unit, accessible by boat only, be out in the channel out there somewhere, so the 1,000 sport fishermen that are going
Like
up,
Shasta Lake has all over it.
Yeah.
Those
they can
floats.
pull up and use the I think it's a
Yes.
two-stall,
Two-holer.
yeah, and then they just take it out and they pump it out with a boat periodically, but it works pretty well. And we'd have very minimal cost in that, I think, when we bobbed, is
About $1,200 total, I
Yeah.
think, is what it comes down to, of a $145,000 venture.
would they plan on mooring it in here over the winter, probably?
We pull it out. We actually
Pull it out
Yep.
physically?
pull it out. They've got a trailer that comes with the program. You pull it out, clean it out, store it, put it
Okay.
back in during season again.
Well, that's probably smart here, because at Silcoos, they just move it to a lee site,
Yeah,
out
with
of the
the-
wind, but here with the flooding and the,
Yeah, well, in
Current and
the
all that
self-scouring rivers,
Yeah.
you know,
yeah, good deal.
7 knots at sometimes you don't want that hanging out.
So we
there.
just put it back there at the,
Put it in storage.
okay.
And it, like I said, comes with that. We stock it. You can pump it out with pump out station, but they said it lasts almost 6 months without being pumped out. I mean, it's a good sized unit. And the offset for us too is there's several other porta potties that we don't have to bring into the parking lot that we normally would have to during that season. So with some cost offsets there as well.
And it's also convenient to the recreational
Yeah.
fishermen.
Well, that's
Yeah,
all, I
very
mean,
much
that's
so.
the only people. Unless if somebody wants to swim out, but,
Scuba divers.
John, what,
How do we mark that for visibility at night?
Have no idea. I haven't seen their plan of what that is, but you know, they have a, you know, we'll check that out and see.
imagine
But
there's reflectors of some kind, because they're not.
there's bound to
powered.
have something.
don't
They've been
want-
putting
Well,
these.
of course, they could
Put
put
a boat unit into it.
Well, they could put a little solar
Pattern.
light, something or other.
But yeah, we'll check that out.
It's
Ken?
solar powered and it has navigational lights on it.
Oh,
Ah,
great,
excellent.
thank you.
And it
Thank
won't
you,
be
Ken.
sitting out in the middle of the river. Right now, we're planning on putting it right by the pilings,
Yeah,
close in.
toasties, you get a little
Yeah.
excited if we put it out there.
That's gonna be my question about anchoring it. No,
Put it between 2 pilings.
we'll put it in the view shed of the new Best Western Restaurant.
There you go. Move it over there.
Just kidding.
All right. Do we need a motion on that, or just an author?
It might be best, the
Consensus.
grant is due April 5th, and that's why Susie wanted it brought up tonight, just so.
I'll move we proceed with the grant, approve the grant amount, and proceed with
Happily,
two-holer.
happily second that.
Okay, it's been made and seconded. Any comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, nay, passes. Reports. Okay, I'll start. We went back to Washington on our annual lobbying venture and met with the delegations, congressional delegations from Washington, Oregon, and Idaho, and the mood was somewhat subdued because of sequestration and the confusion. This is over and above the normal level back there. But it really was. There's 2 things going on. One, sequestration, and the other is the demise of the earmarks, if you will. And between the two of them, it's pretty tough to channel money anymore. And that's kind of the way that the Corps of Engineers, who's one of our main benefactors, has operated for years. People like Peter DeFazio could back us on a dredging project or something, and he would funnel the money through the Corps, and it pretty much would come downhill. Now, the Corps will get a bag of money of some amount, basically. It's kind of a simplistic view, but they will then decide, and they will prioritize the projects, which will be a new, kind of a new adventure for them. And we met with the Corps, the appropriate Corps of Engineer people back there, and we met with DeVazio and Wyden and Merkley and all their staffs, and it was a good meeting. And then we were given presentations by the delegation from Washington and Idaho, and of course from Oregon, and they addressed our issues as far as shallow draft ports, and which is a big deal for us. We're kind of on the low end, and we're going to have to fight harder and harder for a lot of the monies that we've had in the past for dredging and jetty maintenance and all. It's becoming more difficult at continually justifying those expenditures. They were, I think, cognizant of the fact that we're a shallow draft port, so that may help us on some of our other projects, i.e. funding that comes down through ODOT and different things for economic development, some of the things, you know, the estuary trail type things and so on and so forth. So, we did what we could do, and it was interesting because we were back there with the other ports, Tacoma, Seattle, Port of Portland, Astoria, you know, the big guys that do things like run airports and shipbuilding areas and things. But they were all very supportive of the shallow draft need, which was nice because they made a point to mention us, and we were about the only shallow draft port on the Oregon coast, I think, that was back there.
That was back there, yeah.
So we got a lot of attention and a lot of conversation. So it was very worthwhile. It's kind of expensive to go back there, but I think we have to keep our hat in the ring, sort of.
What do you think the drivers are going to be behind dredging in the future? What do you think the criteria will be?
Well, historically, it's been tonnage,
Yeah, but
and we have no tonnage. So
right. And then it's,
now one of the things is probably going to be the Coast Guard station.
so national security.
Security,
Mhm.
yeah. Not only safety, you know, because we're kind of in between, but
I think
national
that's a big
security.
issue.
And it's going to be a deal because, you know, we're talking $500 million to redo the jetties.
Right. So
Boom. You know, and
that's a very serious amount of money.
it's really beyond our, in my opinion, it's beyond our control. I mean, we have to have a benefactor somewhere that is going to place that kind of value on us.
So minimally, the dredging will have to provide egress and ingress for the Coast Guard. So the draft will be based upon the minimum requirements of the Coast Guard.
Right.
Of a 47-foot rescue
Right.
boat. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
how does that portend with a commercial fishing fleet?
Oh, well, the 47s are less draft than some of the fishing boats, but they still, they're close. They're close.
Yeah, the other, you know, and the dredging is not the big gorilla in the deal. Our thing is the jetties. And I don't know how long we can go. I mean, I'm sure they deteriorated more this year. We've lost almost 500 feet off each jetty since
473 since
Yeah.
'84.
And so that's a big number, and that causes the sand to eddy there and build up over the bar. And the bar was closed for 3 weeks, I think, there at a time, about last month. And that's one of the problems. That's why historically we haven't been as big a fishing port as we could have been, because the guys get out and they can't get back in, and they get in, they can't get back out, and it's
And that
very
happens
easy.
a lot.
Yeah, I mean, they can go to Charleston, they can go to Newport, where there's not that issue.
So the question, 500 million to fix our jetty. And
Oh,
how-
not our jetty.
Or is this
all the jetties.
All the jetties.
Yeah.
No, that's A bunch of that's for ours,
Well, some of, yeah, I don't think it's,
a lot.
Hundreds of millions
Yeah.
of dollars.
sure.
How would that be justified with respect to economic development? That would be really difficult to
It's tough.
pencil out.
It's gonna be a tough problem,
Yeah,
because we're a little, I mean, we are what we are.
yeah.
And we're, when our major employers are the hospital, the school, and the casino, that doesn't,
One of the
that
big
doesn't help.
ways that can help. Congressman DeFazio and his staff, Carmen Ford, his deputy chief of staff, were very, very good at working with us before we got to Washington, and then making the congressman available to us while we were there. And one of the things that he kept in every conversation that he has had since the meeting that I saw him down in, was it Bandon?
Brookings.
Brookings, thank you, was the Harbor Trust Fund, Maintenance
Right.
Trust Fund,
Mhm.
that is being not utilized for
Raffled.
harbor maintenance. It's being done on a,
Diverted
been
to other
pulled
issues.
to all sorts of different issues. And the Harbor Trust, the Harbor Maintenance Trust Fund, is deteriorated down to around $800 million. It's supposed to be over $1 billion, $1.6 billion, something like that. And the Corps of Engineers right now estimate that their backlog of maintenance work for the United States is $62 billion. And they cannot get Congress to act to seal up the trust fund so that it doesn't leak out onto other
If you don't mind the pun,
projects.
If you don't mind the pun.
That's right,
Yeah.
exactly. And they also have a river maintenance trust fund as well. The same thing is kind of happening, but much smaller numbers. I would encourage the public to start getting out there and making the awareness of this thing. This just doesn't affect the Pacific coast. This is the Mississippi River, this is the East Coast, it's all the Great Lakes, anywhere where the Corps of Engineers is working. And quite honestly, until I came to this job, I never heard of this
Yeah.
or even knew that it was happening.
Did you see
So-
that email today from Ray or?
No, or as lobbyist, no, I have
He
not.
said it's business as usual. They didn't come through with the money.
So I really,
It's-
really encourage everybody I talk to when I do to get on the phone or email to their representatives to talk about this issue, because it's like Middle America doesn't really care because they don't have any harbors, but they will care when nothing can come in anymore because the rivers are silted in or because the boats can't get across and there's no more import-export going on. But by then it's going to be too late.
A couple of things that were really interesting and we don't think about is the river traffic on the Columbia in the harbors in Vancouver and Portland, and they were saying, I believe it was 80% of the export wheat goes through down the Columbia River, and
All the way
70%
from
of the
Idaho.
soybeans,
Yeah.
for export to China, and they go through basically Vancouver and Portland and a couple others, but mainly those two where they're transferred from either rail or barge to the ships, and it's just a huge number.
So when we left, we asked him what we could do, for him, because he was helping us, and that's what he said. Spread the word on this thing and get it out there, because it really is serious, and I don't hear about it in Main Street news media of any sort. And I think it's something that we really could pass on to everybody and see if we can't get some, because we'll get the tailings of any kind of money and stuff, but quite honestly, that's all we need. But I think that the public really needs to know that this is going on and that they're being hurt economically. And they brought it up in one of the meetings where the folks was at Seattle were saying, look, because of the tariffs and because of the things that are going on, some of the imports now are going through Canada and being trucked down so they don't have to pay into the fees into the harbor. So we're losing jobs, we're losing tariffs, and that really needs to stop, and we need to get it out to the public.
But to put it in perspective, you take the $62 billion in backlog maintenance for harbors and rivers, the highway system and bridges are hundreds of billions of dollars in
Exactly.
backlog. And we're competing with that money.
Sure.
So
Suppose that would create any jobs if they release some money to do
Well, you
infrastructure.
would think so.
Yeah,
We have all sorts of opportunity to improve our infrastructure.
exactly. And
Why isn't it happening?
And Congressman DeFazio is, if nothing else, infrastructure based.
Yeah, he is.
It really is. So it was great. It was a well worthwhile trip, and I think in part the decision on our wharf is in part to him and his involvement,
He
his
carried
staff
the ball on
involvement.
that
He
one.
really did.
We got his attention, and by the time we got back,
Yeah,
we
there
had
was
a
already
meeting
phone
set up
calls
with these
made.
people
Yeah.
that we couldn't approach before.
As far as the mitigation?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the time we got home and got into work on Monday, the meetings were already set. You know, as much as we would like to take credit for that,
And that
we really
probably-
can't.
that probably saved us $200,000.
I'm thinking so. Yeah, it did.
Do you think it would be appropriate for us as a board to send a thank you note
Oh,
to
absolutely.
DeFazio's
I think
office?
so. Yes. I
And a
would like to
copy
see
of
that.
the article that was in the Siuslaw News, maybe,
So then
if
your
we could
trip,
do that.
trip to DC was pretty inexpensive.
Yeah, oh, yeah, it was.
Yeah. Well, yeah, if you look at it that way. Yeah.
But I mean, it
So,
was,
Yeah.
and the big thing was we avoided the snowstorm. That was just
You're
amazing.
singing everything.
Some of the airports had 12 inches of snow, and we were downtown in just
10.
flurries.
Yeah.
It was just on the rain line. The rain came in from the ocean, and the cold came in from the mainland, and it met right down Main Street.
Did you fly out of Reagan?
And,
Yes.
And I
No
mean,
snow.
we thought we were stuck there, and it just, you know, they shut down the whole town for 2 days. And
You know, I've always said that DC's really not prepared for big snowstorms like the other cities on the East Coast.
Well, what
Well,
they
I had to drive to Atlanta from there one
Mm.
time.
What they did do, though, that just for their benefit, I know we're off topic a little bit, but what I was impressed with logistics was that they shut down before they had any snow. Now, the reason they did that, when you talk to staff there, is they figured that they get 540,000 people a day coming into Washington, D.C. Employees, tourists, the whole thing.
Sure.
And where most of these people live outside in Alexandria and other places and take the trains in, as soon as they see that there's a weather issue, they shut it down because those people live somewhere else. And their point was, should we ever, they got hit with snow and shut some of the trains down and things. They said, should we ever get hit with that kind of snow, and we have 540,000 transients in our town, what are we going to do?
How are we going to accommodate them? How are
Yeah,
gonna
you
feed them?
can't.
Yeah.
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 So,
being a city, they don't have
Yeah.
2 weeks supply of food. I mean,
Yeah.
it's on a daily basis.
so I was
The hotels and
actually
everything.
at first we were teasing them because they don't know what snow is, and then it's like, well, wait a minute,
They
they've
do
actually
know.
been doing this
They
for a
do know
while,
what snow is.
you know, and so I was impressed with their logistical tactics on this thing.
On the letter to DeFazio,
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be good for the chair and you to sign it
You bet.
Excellent. Okay.
on behalf of the board and the citizens of the district. I think that would really be good PR. And I think also it would be good for us to perhaps extend an invitation to Congressman DeFazio to come to one of our meetings in the letter,
Yeah.
if that's
I'm sure we'll
appropriate.
do that. We're close with
If we
both the representative and his staff. He knows
if
it's
we
a-
have some kind of a ceremony opening up the wharf or something,
bet.
he's always good for coming to
Oh,
those.
he did for the ice machine. He was here. And I got to compliment our association to the Pacific Northwest Waterways Association, who we belong to. It's kind of a group, and it goes all the way up the Columbia River, all the way to Lewiston, Idaho, and the coasts of Washington and Oregon. And their staff did just a superb job. I mean, everything was aligned. And
Boy, don't they orchestrate?
oh,
They do.
just phenomenal. And they set up the meetings, you know, with the various delegates, and they have them come in and speak to the whole group. And I mean, it was
Seamless.
just perfect.
Yep.
And had the head people from the Corps of Engineers, all the go-to types, you know, that we needed to be in contact with and to listen to, and it was fascinating.
I know
Okay,
last year I was really impressed with that.
yeah, they do a good job.
But we had more shallow draft ports there last year than we did this
Yeah,
year.
I
It was-
honestly
it was-
believe we were the only
It
ones.
was scarce this year.
Yeah.
Okay, Bob, you want to give us your progress report on the various projects?
Yeah, I sent you all different,
We all got
as I
copies of
do.
that. Anything you want
But there is a couple things that I want to talk about that aren't on the report that are recent, that you need to know about. I do have on the report the PUD's interest in some of the property up on the 40 acres that's in there. And Ken and I spent some time today on the phone with the Coast Guard. And an interesting project that we'll be working on just came up today. I've been talking to the Coast Guard off and on about, as I've told you folks, about giving them safe harbor, moorage, and things like that. Representative a month or two ago contacted me from their Oakland facility, and that's where their projects planning is at. And she's been asking, what would it cost to moor them for an extended period of time, a few months at a time, while they're making their move down there. Evidently, and that's why I called Ken in, is because he has much more knowledge of the river and boats and stuff than I do. They're much more interested in information and financial information that goes beyond that. And her job is to check out short-term, medium-term, and most extreme actions. What they want from us, and we'll start to provide it to her, is what would it cost to build a facility on our property for them, for their boats, for their covered boat sheds, workshops, that sort of thing. But her other interest that she wants is what would it cost to long-term lease or purchase the property up off of Kingwood, that the tail end goes over to the water across Rhodey, that section, to build a whole new Coast Guard station up on there.
Yeah.
So we'll be working on those figures to get to her so that they can start a project looking at keeping the Coast Guard where they house their staff, their people that live there, but move the operations station and stuff up on that hill that we own, and possibly piers and moorings out in the water out into the river right there where we have access to the river off of our property there. So,
looking at John's new tsunami inundation map that's just out.
John's new?
It
anyway,
says that name right here. Anyway, they've changed it somewhat, but you can see the merit of that, because in that
that's
particular area,
that's the issue.
the inundation zone is just basically rhododendron right
Yeah.
there along the river. It doesn't go up any further
Yep.
into our property at all. We're down here, we're right in the center of it, right where we sit tonight. So that wouldn't
so that'll be interesting.
gain them that much. But no, that's an interesting concept.
Good opportunity.
That would also sort of tell us that they're planning on staying around for a while too.
Oh, they are. I mean, even in there, when we, once we got her talking and got her confidence up that she could tell us what short-term and long-term was, when she said short-term, she said 15 years.
Yeah.
So when they were looking to rent mortgage space, it was for 15 years for short-term. And then long-term was 25 years and beyond. And it's like, okay. We took a different approach all of a sudden. It's 15 years is short-term. So yes, it'll be.
I thought you were talking 3 months.
Yeah, that's what we think.
See, another benefit of that site too is they're just over the hill from the airport. You can hit a golf ball that far,
Yes.
and that would be real handy to get their helos in and out.
And she
you could
knew
put a
what
hot
equipment that they
refueling system
needed
in
to
out
hot
there,
fuel
that'd
the
be good.
systems and that sort of thing. She already knew
That's
what
what he
they
does.
needed. Yeah. So we'll be working on that project, I'm sure, for a while. Nothing happens rapidly there, but that just happened today.
You never know about the Coast Guard, having been
Yeah.
with them for a number of years.
Well,
a project would just seem like it's nowhere, and all at once, boom, they're moving.
They do tend to analyze it a lot, but then once they're ready, they go. So we'll be working with them fairly closely. She's coming up on April 22nd, so I'll let you know when she's up here so you guys can meet her. Throw ideas at her, because they're like a sponge. They want to know everything they possibly
Is she
can.
a civilian, or is she?
No, she's Coast Guard.
She's Coast Guard.
Yeah.
And that's probably out at Government Island. That she's,
Right out of, yes. Mhm.
That's where I work too.
So should be very interesting, conversations.
Yeah.
Other than that, we've been obviously working local. You see that our hiker bike camping area is coming along. We've extended units. We've new type of camp host. We're looking at. We've put out a note to possibly hire temporary help in the office, because we're going to take one of our office personnel and turn her into a purely landscape person all year round, so that that we have one person paying attention to the greenery and flowers and that sort of thing, aesthetic value of what we're doing. Our maintenance guys are good at maintenance and building. They're not necessarily good at floral and fauna,
Green thumbs.
Yeah, so we're going to move her out where she's best utilized and that type of thing. Our camp host that we've hired is a working camp host and will be doing work as well. So we have hopefully setting the foundation for a process that will take care of itself. We're going to move our maintenance people to Monday through Friday because we'll have people here on the weekends with Carrie being here, with our camp host being here. That way we'll be able to consolidate the effort of the projects we have for them, and it's not strung out 3 guys over a 7-day period, which is, while it has worked, it hasn't worked as well as it could be. So I think you'll see a bunch of this going on.
Very good, sir. Anything else from members of the commission? Being no further business, we're going to adjourn the regular meeting at 7:50 and going to open an executive session. Per the contract, as I remember, it shall increase to $65,000.
So move.
Where are we right now?
62.5.
I second, absolutely.
What is did I have a question? I agree totally, but what is it? Do we have a salary plan?
I think it's over the next couple of years, isn't it? We have it.
You mean for the court
By
manager?
contract?
No, by contract, I only negotiated the first 6 months and the second 6 months. After that, I did not negotiate anything further.
And we do that during the budget
So
process.
what is our salary plan? What is our policy, our salary plan?
I don't know that
Same
we have one.
for
Ken?
Ken? Oh, no, because Ken now is on salary.
Right. But don't tell him that there's supposed to be a plan. See?
Well, I don't even
He's
know.
been paying us to come to work.
There's nothing in
Does
the,
he have an official title?
We don't
I mean, we can't pay the guy because he doesn't have a.
Yes, he does.
he does,
Yeah.
services coordinator. Ta-da!
Have
we
you
don't-
published that yet?
Yes, and he's getting business cards and all that. Yes.
We don't have any type of salary compensation policy.
We have no policy, that is correct.
That's correct.
See, I have a range of, for every position, A, B, C, and D, for all our positions.
There's what, 5% difference between them?
Yeah.
About?
But that's something that we need to take a look at then.
You're
I
right.
think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
We have to have a salary plan. On the to-do list.
But
Okay, did we have a motion? We had a
We have a
motion.
motion
We had
and
a
a second.
second. We had a second.
Mhm.
Any discussion, further discussion? All those in favor? of-
Aye.
Aye.
Signify by opposed. Motion carries.
Congratulations,
Thank you.
you successfully
Thank
passed.
you.
thank you. And thank you very much. We've got a lot of work to do ahead of us, a lot of things to work on. But one thing that I would like to do is we put these salary plans together. I would prefer that we will take a look at this position's salary. The problem that I have right now in our community is I don't honestly believe in, and I'm sorry if I offend other people in this community, but I don't think we have too many jobs in this community that are worth much more than $65,000 a year for the size of the town that we're dealing with and
I
the
would
size
agree
of the
with
project. And the reason I negotiated the price that I did is because I believe that's what the job is worth. So I don't look at a whole lot of more money beyond what we're making right now for what I've agreed to do and what I've agreed to expand with you people. And I think I'll probably hold that. We'll see how time goes. But I really, I would really like to impress upon you that for someone that's been doing this for many years in other areas, and for what we have to work with in this community and what this community is suffering from right now, I would be ashamed to take much more than that as we speak.
A noble
Oh,
gentleman.
we appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And we'll review it the next time around
Okay.
and to see
Where we're at
where
that
we
point in
are
time.
and, what's equitable and compatible and so on and so forth. But that was a good meeting tonight. I think that's fine. And, something that was kind of obvious when we go back to Washington with these bigger ports, is the asset base that they have. I mean, some of these guys have thousands of acres. They've taken over old military bases, and you know, they have all downtown Portland, and they have SeaTac Airport, and you know, all these things. And you think, you know, we're sitting down here, and we've got this much, and we're talking to the Corps of Engineers
Yeah.
about putting a bulkhead down there and getting them another 6 feet of turf, and they say, oh, no, you can't do that because that's habitat. And I'm looking over there 500 yards, and I'm looking up there, you know, and I'm saying, you know, well, gee, we're such a minuscule thing, and this is our whole survival, this campground, if you will.
Where's the proportionality?
And you know, if we're gonna put the
Yeah.
estuary trail and everything on there on top of that, but boy, you look at some of these other guys, and you know, they were talking about building 100,000 square foot warehouses to export wine.
Yeah.
You know, from the
Ken's over here trying to drum up $1,300 a year.
I mean, these guys they're talking numbers that just boggle the mind. It's what do you do for money? All the banks just shove it across the table, you know,
Oh,
because
it's amazing.
it's you know, the return is so good for them. But it's just amazing in some of those areas.
I'm sure some of these larger ports have budgets larger than
Oh, yeah.
counties.
Yeah, I'm sure
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, $1 billion.
Doesn't
like
take
I
much to do to.
That's true.
That's true.
Yeah, look
You know,
at
they're-
Curry County.
Their biggest deal up there now is that I-5 bridge and how high it's supposed to be, and that's a
Yeah.
big deal for them with
Huge
the ships and
project.
everything. But it puts it all in perspective. But like I say, they were very kind to us when we
They
were
were.
back there, and it's just they
Very
would come up to
cordial.
us and say, "That's it,
Yeah.
do it." Okay, there being no further business. All right, nothing then.
Are we adjourned?
We're adjourned.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.